guys. My heart is like, I feel very starstruck right now, as goofy as that is, but I see Aaron on my screen every single day. I have recently discovered you, Aaron, through a friend that sent me something, and something about the way that you explain things just really, I grasp everything so much better. And I just love every single video you've ever put out. And it's become like this daily thing to get me in the right, just kind of headspace. And I had never really heard about the law of one. I was telling them this at a gratitude meeting recently before your videos. And that's the one that has most affected me, because I didn't really think that I was walking around with a fear of death or dying. But after learning that and it feeling so true, and like the only thing that makes sense in the world, that yeah, I just feel this huge weight lifted of fear, like, and just relaxation. And I don't know, just a lot of guilt and sadness for other people's lives that I thought were unfair and things like that. It's just done so much for me. So anyway, I'm gonna read now the actual introduction, but thank you. I just love your stuff, and I'm so glad I found you. Okay, so after a religious upbringing and young adulthood focused on theology, fitness, modeling, and bodybuilding, Aaron felt called to pursue a new space of professional and spiritual being. He shares his path to awakening and inspiration to inspire others' realization of lasting joy and peace. I think you can take it away, Aaron.
Thank you, Ashley. Very blessed to hear that.
Aaron, I don't know if there's anything specific you're feeling called to speak on, or we could just get into questions, whatever works best for you.
Yeah, we could jump right into questions if you want. I'm sure that'll lead us to whatever topic Source wants to bring through.
Yeah,
I will make one. I can make one kind of exciting, I don't know, announcement, I guess you could say. But since you brought up the law of one, law of one very much had all the same effects on me when I found it that Ashley stated. And I've just been fiercely passionate about that text ever since, as evidenced by all the videos I make about it and teachings I do about it. And so I've had such a huge cry in my heart to get this text out to a broader audience for so long, which is why I started making the content. I just went, man, the magnitude this text had to impact me, I can only imagine what it can do for others. And I just want to get this truth out, because as Ashley also said, pretty much everybody who hears this text, at least people who have some kind of a spiritual background, typically always say, wow, it's like I already knew this was true. Something in me always knew this was the case. And this text gave me permission to really just run with it. So in wanting to get this text out to as many human beings as possible, I've just had this intention on my heart. And man, the universe delivered that in such a powerful way in the last month. I've had a few people say this to me in the comments of different videos. And so it's been on my radar because I pay attention to those things. But Gaia reached out to me last month, and they basically said, hey, we saw your YouTube channel. We love your Law of One series. We want to make you your own Law of One TV show on Gaia. So I've been working with them for the last month or so on the pilot episode. And yeah, we have 3 seasons planned so far, and we're going to start filming probably in July. But, Gaia has like a couple million subscribers. So I'm just like so pumped right now for the what's coming down the pipeline in terms of really being able to get the Law of One out to kind of the next level of influence, you could say. And so I think that that'll be a really impactful thing on the collective consciousness of the planet.
All right, everybody, let's take a minute just to give Aaron a big air hug for that incredible accomplishment. Man, dude, that's so cool. Congratulations, brother. That's awesome. Thank you, man. You deserve it.
Thank you so much.
Could you, on that Law of One, could you give like a once-over, if possible, like, just a summary overview of the Law of One for all the people in the collective that it might be a brand new concept? And hearing you talk about it last time, opened my eyes and made me dive in more. And it was really transformational.
Yeah, just kind of like a Law of One overview.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah. So the Law of One is a channel text from the early 1980s. It was a group of kind of UFO researchers, you could say, who were coming together for many years, actually, doing these channeling sessions, or really practicing how to channel, because they're in their research of the UFO phenomenon and other channeled works and different kind of ET contacts, they sort of decided, like, hey, I think the real golden ticket to understanding this phenomenon is not through the science of it or the metaphysics of it even, but really the philosophy and the spirituality of these ETs. That's what we believe is their driving motivation for why they're here. And so they started pursuing that through channeling, and had some contacts, some success, but it was in the early 1980s, 81, I believe, where they had a contact come through of the entity named Ra, which introduced itself as a sixth density social memory complex from the planet Venus. And they started doing these dedicated channeling sessions with this entity. And there was three people. Carla Ruckart was the channeler. Don Elkins was the questioner. And then Jim McCarty was the scribe. And so they would come together after each session, kind of review the previous material, come up with new questions, and do the next session. So they had 106 dedicated sessions over a 4-year period. And this entity named Ra, which is really more of like a group mind or a collective consciousness of the whole planet of Venus, they describe the nature of the universe, the science of reincarnation, all these amazing kind of spiritual things, which typically have been put into the more like woo-woo category, that there's no real science to explain these things. So it's just left up to the spiritual hippies to talk about it. Well, Ra comes along and explains the science of the energy body, the chakras, how they correlate to the reincarnation of the soul. And really it all boils down to what they call the law of one, which is the basic spiritual truth that all is the one infinite creator knowing itself. Each one of us right now is a different expression of that creator, in the same way that like a musician might write 100 songs over their lifetime. Like each song is an individual expression of that musician. Each one of us as a soul is a unique expression of that source consciousness. But at the most primordial level, we are that one source consciousness, not even the soul that reincarnates, but the source through which it incarnates. So it's just an amazingly, endlessly fascinating text. I've read it through 7 times. Every time I've read it through, it's like I've never read it before. It is that deep. It is that powerful in its ability to expand consciousness. Outside of A Course in Miracles, I have never found a channeled work that really can compare with it.
Thank you so much. That was perfect. And what we'll do is we'll get into questions earlier today than we normally do. But I do want to ask one more, because between when you last came on and now, I saw that you've been speaking on karma yoga, but I haven't got a chance to really dive into it. Could you just give also a once over on that? And then if anyone has any questions to follow up, just start raising your Zoom hands and we'll call on people after this.
Yeah, karma is another concept that Ra touches on a little bit. Karma goes hand in hand with reincarnation, because karma is that magnetizing force, you might say, that requires a soul to keep reincarnating until the karmas have been healed or transcended. So karma yoga is kind of the yoga in which we take the most direct path to eliminating karma. So the way I break down karma in my recent video on the Remember I Am series is that karma, we could say, is essentially like personal involvement with the flow of life, because there is just the one being, the one absolute reality that is permeating everything, and there's nothing else. So whenever you in your mind claim to be something other than that one source, I am this individual person separate from the source, living my own life, left to my own means. You know, this comes hardwired into human biology. Whenever you have that identity of yourself, you are creating karma through every action you take. really more accurately, every action that happens through you is being claimed by the mind or the ego, and that is causing this karmic accumulation of energy in the system. Guilt, pride are really the two basic ones. The two ways that the mind claims some action. If the action that happens through the flow of life results in a pleasurable experience, ego will say, look how great my action was. I'm the doer. And if that action results in pain or an unpleasant outcome, the ego will say, wow, look how terrible my action was. I'm certainly the doer of that action. So it's this personal doership, believing that I am the independent actor, isolated from the flow of life, creates karma, guilt and pride. And guilt and pride are really the result of pain and pleasure, right? The pursuit of pleasure and the avoidance of pain. So in karma yoga, we say, actually, just cease all identification with all actions that happen and just know that it's God acting through you. And it seems a bit counterintuitive at first, but what begins to happen when we stop taking credit for the actions of the body is we start to recognize, yeah, wow, actually, I'm starting to realize that all these actions are pre-programmed almost. They're just conditioned responses to stimulus. They're predictable, they're reliable, and they're certain. You know, every time that person says that thing, the mind will have the same reaction to it. So you start getting these insights, and it's really these insights that allow you to abide in a deeper place of awareness, to know yourself as the witness, the consciousness, not the body. I am the witness of the body, the witness of the mind. The mind and the body are just conduits for consciousness. They're just vehicles for consciousness. And I've been so absorbed in them that I couldn't actually know my true self, my true nature. So personal doership, or the belief in personal doership, is another really solid definition for the ego. And when and if that belief that I am the independent doer of my actions is transcended, the result is self-realization. So karma yoga is that practice of non-doership, essentially.
Wow, that's way more profound than I had envisioned. So thank you for that clarification. That was beautiful. I see Mel with her hand up. We'll go to Mel.
Thanks. I think Joey had his hand up first, but I'll go.
We'll get Joey next.
Okay. So Aaron, I just want to first of all just echo everything that Ashley said. I mean, I just words can't say how much your work has affected me on like an everyday basis. So thank you. And so my question was, in the series that you were doing with, I think it was like Brandon Bozarth on the Divine Masculine, you had said something to the effect of like, sorry, this is like, this has been like in my heart for a couple of days. I've been really struggling with this, so it might be hard for me to get it out, but something to the effect of like, you know, if you're in a relationship with someone and they're maybe not on the path of waking up, like they have no spark of desire to walk this path that so many of us seem to be on, that you might have to find, like at some point you might have to decide like, this is what I want or this isn't what I want. And I'm trying to like reconcile that with my understanding of A Course in Miracles, which I think is saying that like, you know, if I have a relationship and say it's a special relationship and I want to be a holy relationship and I'm taking it like to the altar and I'm doing my work and I'm like, and I'm, you know, trying to be the light, like I know I'm supposed to be, that this person might never see that in me or see that in themselves. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I'm just trying to like understand, like, is it possible to, if you do all of the work and you do all of the steps, that your partners like might never see that, like might never choose to wake up or choose that path?
Mm-hmm.
Is that question making any sense?
Yeah. It certainly makes it much more likely that your partner will come to these realizations as a result of being around you and around your energy, of you being in that state and you pursuing that. But truthfully, when we do the work on ourselves, when we find truth in ourselves, whatever the outcome is always exactly the outcome we wanted, whether that means the relationship evolves and begins to work out and your partner takes up this path themselves as well, along with you, or whether they don't and you have to leave that relationship to find one that's more in alignment with what you want. Either way, when you find truth, when you find peace in your heart, either outcome is essentially the same, meaning you're not going to grieve the loss of that relationship, because in God, in love, there's no loss, right? So as long as there's still sadness happening while you're thinking about this, that's just the evidence that the belief in lack is still there. And that's really what needs to be contemplated, right? And meditated on. Can there be loss in love? Can there be lack in love? And being in the state of self-love allows you to become an environment for others to access the state with themselves. So whether or not your partner does wake up to this, you're going to give them the best shot at doing so by integrating that state yourself. And when you're in that state, once you're in that state, abiding there, you won't have any sadness about the relationship ending if it does end, because you'll know this is for the highest good of me and my partner. If we're not a match, then it is the source's will that my partner finds someone that's more of a match for where they're at, for whatever karmas they have to work out. And it's in my best interest for my spiritual growth to find someone who's a match to me, because ultimately the only desire is the desire for God. You never desire your partner for the sake of them, the person, their ego, the external appearance. You only desire them for the God you see and recognize in them. And so once you know God is everywhere in myself and my partner, the idea that I'm losing my partner by, ending the relationship just vanishes away. It's just an illusion of the mind, right? There is no separation. All minds are joined, all hearts are joined in that love. So every situation is unique. And I can't speak to your situation specifically, obviously, but I can say that just focus on your own growth, right? Focus on finding that oneness with God in your heart. And then whatever the outcome is, will be to your highest joy.
Thank you, Aaron. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mel, so much for that deep question. That was incredible and awesome answer. I can relate to that very much. Joey, whenever you're ready, brother.
Hey, thanks so much, Kyle. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity. This is awesome. Aaron, nice to meet you. Big Likewise. Fan. This is so cool. And I wanted to, you were diving into the Law of One material with Ra, and I wanted to get your take on, I've read all the Law of One material I can get my hands on between Seth and Quo and everybody, but I'm torn between the Urantia papers, and I've been on a year-long dive into those, and I'd have to go back through multiple times on a lot of them, just because that it gets so deep into, especially the second book. What is your take on kind of the council's approval and non-approval of certain channeling, such as Urantia, where it seems like a lot of everything add up in the Law of One? It's all leading us to that same common denominator. It's all leading to that same place. I think it's just, I always hear that we get distracted a lot. It's like they're going to give us we get some information here that's correct, some information here that's not correct. It's for us to discern, between them. But what are your thoughts on the Urantia book? Because it's been profound. Between, I think I read the book on miracles in January that Kyle recommended, but between that and then tying it into Law One and Urantia, what are your thoughts, I guess?
Yeah, I've read the first half of the first book, I believe. I get so absorbed in the Law of One and ACIM that I find it hard to even get into other texts at the moment. I know that Ra states that when they asked Ra about the Urantia papers, they say this text is not approved by the council. But that doesn't mean it's disapproved. I think what Ra is touching on is that you know, the infringement of free will is like the utmost importance of the confederation of planets, of positively oriented beings. And so Ra, as you know, through the law of one, if you read it, is extremely careful not to give information that might be seen as an infringement. And Ra is a sixth density social memory complex, and a very, very late sixth density memory complex. So they're very advanced in their understanding of, or their balance of love and wisdom, and how to be of service without messing up that balance too much. Mm-hmm. And so you see they're very careful about giving certain information out, and they say no to a lot of questions. So I think that if the council is looking through different texts that have been delivered to humanity's memory complex through channeling, they might not approve of certain texts that they believe might be a little too much infringing on, like giving too much information away that maybe humanity's not really ready for, and that might be seen as a bit of an infringement. So to their estimation, it's just something that's like not the best possible service we can offer, but it's not a dismissal or a denial of that text. And I know that the Urantia papers are a very profound text, lots of amazing truth delivered there, and it's a very dense text. So it's absolutely a great thing for anyone to read, I think. It's very nuanced, I think, when it comes to these higher matters. These beings take those things into account, and it's not a small deal to them, whereas we're like, whatever, like a little bit of infringement, who really cares? But at their level of polarization, they can be depolarized very easily by doing those things. Those consequences are much more dire for them at higher densities, because they're really trying to find the most finely tuned balance that a consciousness can have at that level. So it's just kind of different strokes for different folks in that sense.
Yeah, that makes sense a lot in that answer, simply because there's such high level. I know somebody just chatted, what was the name of that? It's the Urantia papers, by the way. But there's so much high level stuff in there that it confuses me at times, but I can see why if a lot of that information was just like thrown out to the world, people would laugh and think we're completely nuts. But when you really do the deep dive, like you said, it just makes so much sense. It's like, oh, duh, you know. So I appreciate the time, man. I look forward to chatting with you in the future.
Absolutely. Thank you, brother.
Thanks, brother. Bye.
Thank you, Joey. Angela had her hand up. So whenever you're ready, Angela.
Okay. Aaron, thank you so much for coming on. Actually, I was not able to attend the first time you were on here, so I definitely made some noise. Thank you so much for agreeing to come back. I am also enjoying your yoga course. I'm taking that. The video on Back to Yoga was a lot of what I needed to hear today. Because sometimes I wonder, you know, and especially what you said about like having all the knowledge, but not having the love, because you know, sometimes I'm going through the day and I absolutely have all the knowledge, and especially I'm also doing a Course in Miracles at the same time. And, you know, I think the one for today was, you know, God's will is my happiness, or, you know, God's will is perfect happiness, or something like that. And like, I just was not happy today. And I mean, logically, I just, you know, I knew, you know, I just like, I'm not happy, and I can't seem to like, you know, will myself out of it. You know, I just can't, you know, even listening, I just like, it just wasn't working. And so when I got home, I listened to, you know, the Bhakti Yoga video, and it was just really nice. It was just really, really nice. Just, you know, take a break and think of like everything that was making me unhappy, and looking at it from a Bhakti Yoga perspective, like through love, you know, what is this, you know, how is this? It's just bringing me closer to the divine, closer to God. And so I really appreciate that. Thank you so much for coming. So something I love that the law of one got brought up right away, because this is also very powerful and significant to me. And since I saw the recording of your first time here, I've been, you know, all into it as well, studying. What I can't seem to, one thing that I'm confused about is, because I'm doing A Course in Miracles at the same time. So, you know, in A Course in Miracles, of course, there's a lot of, you know, only love is real, you know, anything else is an illusion, you know, that kind of, but then in the law of one, you know, I feel like, you know, Ra says, you know, they ask him about, they ask them about, all these horrible humans, they're whatever, that incarnated in Hitler, and they talk about Genghis Khan and all this stuff. And so Ross says, yeah, this was the negative oriented path, and they're whatever they're doing now, they're healing, they're moving on. But how does that kind of go together? Because that was very real. They incarnated here and did horrible things. I guess I don't see how that I'm not able to like kind of join the two. Only love is real, everything else is illusion. Well, but so I'm just wondering what your thoughts on that are. If you have any.
Yeah. Do you mean in terms of the negative path being a polarity that one can evolve on? Like, how is that real if the Course says only love is real?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
The negative path appears to be real to me. Or I don't.
Yeah. Well, the easiest way to look at the polarities is that they're both illusions in the sense that they are physical manifestations of the formless. But the positive polarity, we could say, is that polarity which was meant to embody all of the attributes of the Creator's nature. But it can't know any of those attributes without contrast. So it has to create the exact polar opposite of its nature, which is the negative polarity. So through the negative polarity, the Source can see, okay, I have experienced fear, I've experienced separation, pain, loss, death, tragedy, sadness, sorrow. So if I'm the opposite of that, now I can get a sense for what I am. This is how love experiences itself. So it's meant to be the path of illusion. It's supposed to be the path of ignorance, because that's the purpose it's serving. So Ra, actually, they call the negative polarity the path of that which is not, because it denies the existence of love. So polarity ends at early sixth density, and both polarities must merge and be transcended for true oneness to be attained. And so even though the positive path from fourth density on acknowledges the validity of the negative, like it's serving a rightful purpose, it's allowing the Creator to know itself, but ultimately it's a path of illusion. It's based on the ignorance or the illusion of separation. So really it's like there's two basic views you can have of oneness. If all is one and both paths acknowledge all is one, if all is one, I could take the viewpoint that, okay, that means that I'm the one and only dreamer of the dream. All the other beings in the dream are just dream characters. They don't really exist any more than my dream characters at night exist. They're just figments of my imagination. So they're pawns in my game to be manipulated and used for personal power and gain. And so every time the negatively polarized being manipulates the free will of other dream characters, it polarizes more negatively. It becomes more godlike in the dream, you might say. And that's based off of a lot of different things that they might use. But because they deny love, love is the recognition of oneness, the negative path sees that as totally useless, totally folly, right? No, I'm not all these beings. I am me. They're all just imaginations of my mind. They're all characters in a dream. So there's no consequence. So the negative polarity actually pulls a lot of their philosophy from second density, like the animal kingdom, meaning the lion eats the gazelle, the Creator doesn't bat an eye. There's no justice in the universe. There's no balance at all. It's just kill or be killed. It's survival of the fittest. And so I will survive. I will dominate. I will conquer the dream. And at some point, the negative polarity can't polarize any further through conquering and manipulating. And so eventually Ross says the negative has to concede to the positive and reverse polarity to continue their evolution into seventh density, because the true underlying, the primal truth of the universe is oneness. So the other view you can take is that if all is one, then I am every single being in the dream equally. And so the positive path in treating others as if it is myself, the golden rule, I polarize more positively. I become more filled with that love and light. And that is what brings me happiness. So it's really the same philosophy, but from two different viewpoints. So Course in Miracles, when you read A Course in Miracles, it makes it sound like if a positively polarized being and a negatively polarized one sit down at a debate table and hash it out, who has the true, correct philosophy of the universe? that the positive being would have all the arguments and the negative would just be defeated every time because they're the path of what's not, they're the path of illusion. But that's actually not how it is. The negative path would have just as good of arguments, and they would duke it out all day long, and they would just be going tit for tat, playing ping pong. And they would both have to continually acknowledge, yeah, you know, from your point of view, that's a totally valid view. It's just that the consequences that each of you carries are very different. So it's really not about which one's the correct point of view. It's more about what are the effects you want? What are the consequences you want? And the negative polarity is, you could look at like sexual lust or drug addiction. It's like you're chasing this high all the time, right? When you take that drug, you have that hit of endorphins and whatever. And that's a really good feeling, but then you're left with this crushing void inside of you where you need to satisfy it again. And so it's that distortion that constantly gets more and more entropy is created, the more it's polarized negatively. The lust is even more impossible to satisfy. But when you are able to satisfy it, it has more of a drug hit to it. It has more of that polarized force behind it. So it's really like, you could think of it like the path of addiction, right? If you look at like people on the streets who are addicted to drugs, you talk to them and they're like in their own little world. Like they don't even care that they're on the streets sleeping on cardboard, because when they inject that heroin, they feel like they're the king of the universe, right? And they're always chasing that high. The negative path is a lot like that. So it's up and down, and you're on this endless kind of wild goose chase to be fulfilled when you never really can be fulfilled that way. And the positive is the exact opposite. It's total homeostasis, unbroken peace, unbroken love, joy, happiness. All the gifts of God are permanent gifts. They're eternal, and they are immovable. They're unchanging. They're not affected by the flow of life. And so like these are the two paths we can choose, and they're both valid experiences of the Creator. But again, they have dramatically different consequences in time and space.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate the question.
Thank you, Angela. Ashley, whenever you're ready.
Okay. So I saw something in one of the Law of One material or videos that you did. I haven't read the book yet because I just discovered the videos. But I've listened to a lot of them, if not all of them. And one of them said something about like, if there's the love is great enough between two souls, and I'm thinking of my daughter, they get to stay together. Like, not that we're ever really apart, but I just kind of want, like, that made me feel good. And I just want a little more clarification on what that means.
Yeah, this is kind of where it's talking about the how social memory evolves. So if we look at the logos, you're familiar with the logos? We have like the galaxy is the first logos, a star is a sub logos, a planet, a sub logos, down to us. Each logos is a consciousness that evolves through time, through the densities. So the planets go through the densities, the star goes through the densities. And once the star system, the solar system itself has moved through all 7 densities, it becomes a black hole. It collapses in on itself, returns back to the Creator. So a planet is an evolutionary consciousness as well. And we actually are that consciousness. Each one of us is an individual fragment of it. So we could say planet Earth is becoming self-aware, if that makes sense. And a social memory complex is actually the planet's consciousness. So you could almost call Ra Venus. And when you're talking to Ra, you could think of Venus is what you're talking to. So I am Venus, you know, when it replies, you could literally hear that. The Egyptians named them Ra, right? And so they're just calling themselves what Earth last named them when they last were here. So in that light, they explain how social memory evolves is through the gravity of love. Love is Ra says love is the strongest magic in the universe because it's really, we look at the chakra systems. The third eye is the center where psychic gifts like telepathy evolve. Fifth chakra, the throat chakra, is where wisdom, authenticity, self-expression, self-knowledge is accessed. And then the heart chakra is that universal love and oneness. So the heart chakra comes before the fifth and the sixth. So love is the prerequisite to authenticity and wisdom and psychic abilities. Love is that connecting force. When Ra explains how the universe is made, they explain that first there was infinity, and then infinity became self-aware. And so they call that self-aware infinity intelligent infinity. And you hear that term a lot in the Law of One. It's just another name for the creator, really. So intelligent infinity then, the Big Bang happens, and intelligent infinity expresses itself as love. And so everything in the universe is connected since the Big Bang, and it will eventually coalesce back into itself because nothing can ever be apart from love. So love is the binding force of every molecule in the universe. Everything is literally held together by love energy. And then light is the way that love expresses in physical form, the photon. Everything is actually light, as we know through science. Light is the physical manifestation of love energy. So they call it love light. So they say, we greet you in the love and the light of the one infinite creator. So they're kind of acknowledging the only true reality is love and light. So love is what joins minds together, the way it joins physical matter together. If you and I, let's say, want to communicate telepathically, we have to love one another. If we don't love one another, there's nothing joining us in the astral or the quantum level, right? So Ra says that for that reason, the beings, the entities through which we have the most love, we're most likely to join minds with them first. So typically we go through cycles of reincarnation, and here in third density, our chemical vehicles aren't really evolved enough to truly have telepathic communication. They probably are, but no one's really figured out how to do it yet fully. But as we're moving into fourth density, the body's becoming a fourth density body, which means psychic abilities become much more available once the heart chakra is opened and activated. So maybe in your next lifetime, let's say you and your daughter reincarnate here in 250 years. Now beings are able to share thoughts a little bit more. As that process continues, eventually, once we get to the point where we have full telepathic ability, well, you can literally read my thoughts. There's no need to talk anymore. This is another interesting point of the UFO phenomenon, where everyone who describes interactions with ETs, they always say, whether it's somebody with zero spiritual background at all or not, they always say there's no talking, there's no mouth movement. These beings are very stoic because their physical bodies have probably lost the ability to move their mouth very much because they don't need to, right? So that what isn't needed gets discarded in evolution, right? So they're all communicating up here in the astral. And so once that happens, once you can read all my thoughts, we sort of just start sharing our mind together. So imagine what it would be like if you have total access to every memory I have, every thought I've ever thought, and you can access all of it. Now, where's our sense of self gone? Like, where is Ashley and where's Aaron? It's like we're kind of one entity now. Like the distinction gets really blurry there. So we love each other so much that we're like, have full access to my consciousness. And then as more beings come into that love with us, we join minds with them. And so Ra says, whatever entities choose to stay on planet Earth through their third and fourth density experience will all join into one mind as a planetary consciousness, just like the internet. The internet's like a very primitive early version of a social memory complex. We can all access the same information. We can share our thoughts instantly, and there's really no need to be in the physical anymore. So that is what happens as social memory evolves. The beings we love are going to be the first ones that we join our minds with.
Thank you.
That's actually a pretty fascinating explanation in regards to the Quantum Healing Collective, where we come together at the beginning of every meeting and then try to feel love for each other. So we're kind of,
I love that.
And what ends up happening is we all are in some unbelievable synchronicities. Like I will experience this with so many of our members where we're thinking the same things, or I'll be thinking about one of the members and then they'll text me. It's just complete harmony. So I've never thought about it from the perspective of the social memory complex. That's fascinating.
It's like couples who are like old married couples.
Yeah.
You watch, they can basically read each other's minds. They know each other so intimately, right?
Yeah. Oh, it's so
they
cool.
Pick up on the energies and intuitions. It's pretty cool.
All right. I see Irene. Irene, welcome to the Quantum Healing Collective.
Hello, gentlemen. Hi, Aaron. Hi, Kyle.
Hi there.
So nice to be with you guys tonight. Aaron, big fan. Oh my goodness. I've been with you since practically the beginning. What a joy it is to see your evolution and transformation as it evolves. It's pretty awesome.
I love that.
Yeah. And we have a similar background. I come from the fundamentalist background as well. So, nice. So interesting. So my question is, I've been thinking about this quite often. I've read the Law of One material and also the Urantia papers and other, also when you talked about the Fermi paradox. My question is infringement on free will and free will. My interpretation of free will is our option or ability to choose. Now, what I've noticed is that entities, social memory complex like Ra or other channelings, or they say, well, we can't tell you this because it'll infringe on your free will. But that's actually withholding information, and it doesn't allow us the ability to choose what we believe is true. You know what I mean? So, in other words, how can you really have free will to choose if you don't have all the information? So,
well, in that sense, you never have free will because you never have all the information, right?
Well, but in other words, you know, the questioner, Don, will ask Ra, and Ra will say, well, we can't tell you that because that will infringe on your free will. But
right.
I come from the perspective that I would like the information to choose to.
Right.
So, you know, I mean, I'm trying to wrap my mind around that.
Yeah. So there's a couple ways we can look at this to help it make a little bit more sense. One way would be to look at the guru-disciple relationship. The guru recognizes that understanding happens in levels, and you can't skip any steps in those levels, like a monopoly where you got to go from one space to the other. And really, that doesn't mean the intellectual understanding or the collecting of concepts, but actually the experience of the truth in reality. That's how the soul actually learns and evolves. So a concept is a good thing in that it's just a pointer towards the experience and a helpful reminder when it comes. You can have, I have this concept to refer to now that teaches me how I should respond to this circumstance. And then now you have more free will to choose what actually leads to your happiness. Whereas before, without the concept, maybe you just didn't know how to engage with that kind of circumstance. So the guru knows that every seeker comes at a different level. And so it's very classic guru behavior that they will deliver an answer based upon the seeker's level of understanding or development. Because a lot of times what can happen is if you give too much, and this is what we touched on with the bhakti yoga thing, I believe with Angela, if you give too much knowledge to someone before they've had the adequate experiences to integrate that knowledge, it can actually result in a lot of spiritual bypassing. Meaning I have this concept now that I can use to excuse away dealing with this stuff inside me. Because the ego really wants that. It's in a hurry, it's in a rush, right, to get there. And a lot of the spiritual journey is about, keeping quiet inside, remaining as the observer, allowing feelings to be there, allowing experiences to happen. And it needs to be something that's dealt with lots of presence, lots of stillness. And too many concepts in the mind can stir the ego up and weaponize it to where it doesn't have the capacity for that stillness and presence and to really sit with things and allow inner guru to show you the truth. The mind will try to keep mapping the concept onto the experience, and it's like defragging every time. It can't really make the connection yet because it hasn't had the karmic experience yet. So giving too much information before the seeker's ready for it can actually delay their growth. It can actually stunt their growth. So a very advanced consciousness who's been through all those levels can hear a question and go, oh, I see exactly where this question's coming from. Let's say it's level 2. Let me give them a level 2 answer. Another way we could look at this is, I had a friend once in college who they studied quantum physics in college. And he told me this really amazing thing. He said, we took an entire semester of one class on string theory, I believe it was. And then the beginning of the next semester, our professor had all the string theory equations written on the whiteboard, and we walked in and we did a 5-minute review of every equation in theory. People raised their hands, gave the answers. He said, great, awesome job. You guys sound like you know your string theory. Now this semester, and they took the chalk eraser and they erased the whole whiteboard. They said, everything you learned last semester is actually wrong. We found out now it's not actually how quantum physics works, but we had to teach you that to help you follow our line of thinking so you'll understand the hologram theory or whatever the semester was teaching. You need to know that as kind of the foundation to go, oh, I see it. Actually, it's not that, it's this. Okay, I get it. Spiritual seeking is kind of like that. We speak to the ego a lot in spiritual seeking. A Course in Miracles speaks to the ego. Even forgiveness is actually just a concession to the ego. The ego is what is being told to forgive. Source doesn't need to forgive because it never holds a transgression. But at that level of spiritual development, they need to be taught how to forgive, right? To say, oh, no, you don't need to forgive. Forgiveness isn't necessary. All is the one. There's no transgressions. Well, then that level of seeker might bypass forgiveness, and they're still holding resentments in their heart and trying to map this idea that, well, I don't need to forgive because all is one. Okay, I see that. And it's actually stunting their growth. So higher consciousness, being like Ra, is very aware of that and will try to deliver whatever answers help push them to the next space on the Monopoly board.
Right, kind of like respect the process.
Exactly, respecting the process.
Yeah, it just does super quick because, you know, with all the ET phenomenon and everything that's coming out in the government, and it's so what I understand is that I believe from what I've watched and observed through different sources is that ETs are among us, but there's so much secrecy, which kind of had me thinking about our free will. So what I understand is what you've said before, the collective is not ready to embody the ET presence. And so that's why we're not seeing them, you know, around the earth or as a whole, you know, right out in the open and in our faces. So it's so interesting. Thanks for that answer. Right. And I appreciate it. Thank you for expanding on that.
Thank you for the question. Very good question.
Thank you very much. I see Ragdan with a question.
Yes. Hi. Wow, okay, I forgot to go. So Aaron, huge supporter and really value.
Whoopsie, I think you just muted yourself.
There you go.
Sorry. Yeah, just saying, really value and appreciate all the teachings you've shared with us over the years. I personally haven't read the books that this collective is mentioning, but I have more of a question that's an aspiration of just the journey you've had and the teachings you're here to share. I'm a big believer that consciousness has spread certain spiritual teachers and guides all across our planet in order to wake certain areas up. And I was just wondering if you have any insights or maybe channeling or just advice to spiritual guides, spiritual teachers, each of us here in this collective that you could share with us to really not necessarily better our lives, but really raise consciousness, be there for others, anything that you may share with us today. Thank you.
You mean how to access guides? Is that what you're saying?
No, I was just wondering if what you feel as you've witnessed, like there's more, we're all in talks more about spirituality and you being kind of a huge role in that domain. I'm just wondering, what would you maybe like to see or advice that you have to share to spiritual guides such as yourself that are rising and you'd like to see more of? Because I feel like sometimes spirituality is getting misunderstood or lost in today's world in some cases, but I'm just wondering if you have anything to share.
I see. Yeah. Well, the Course says that everyone is a teacher of God. And we need teachers in every field and every walk of life. So I think we limit ourselves when we conceptualize spiritual teaching to standing up in front of an audience and talking or making a video about a spiritual concept, and that's spiritual teaching, and other things aren't spiritual teaching. A Course in Miracles says you're always teaching. The Law of One says you're always serving the Creator. So what I found to be amazing on my journey has been just the fact that all I've ever done since day one is just follow my passion. And I've discovered that your passion is your purpose. Like, you find your purpose through what you're passionate about. And every single one of us is so like unfathomably unique that you'll never have, there's no way you'll ever be able to like predict what your true calling and purpose in life will be. It has to be an unfolding mystery. Like, I've never had a clue or an intention to be where I am today. I didn't start making YouTube videos because I wanted to be a spiritual teacher. I was just so fiercely passionate about healing and Course in Miracles and Law of One and all these things that I felt like I'm going to die if I don't teach about this or make content about this. It's changed my life. I've got to share it. So it's like, what has helped you can be your next, you become the conduit to help others in that way, right? So it's like, look at whatever you're passionate about, whatever it is. It could be finances, it could be art, it could be cooking, I don't know. And just follow that passion, and Source will always find a way to create that into a destiny, a path of destiny, where that passion of yours somehow becomes like a transmitting conduit for love and for healing in the world. And we need people in every space. We need people in, again, you know, finances, music. We could name a million things, right? We need people in every walk of life who are living their truth and following their passion and being a living example of what that looks like to then inspire other people to do it. And I think spirituality will only really take a stronghold on this planet and will really step into a universal religion of oneness once there are enough people in every field, every walk, you know, news, you name it, that are living this truth, and it's seen everywhere. But as long as spirituality is just relegated to this one category of like what we're doing here tonight, and everything else isn't spirituality, we're going to stay in this state of separation. So I always tell people, man, your passion is your purpose. Don't think, just follow your passion blindly. Just become as excited as possible about what you're doing. And that excitement is like it's like the bat signal for the universe. It's like the universe hones in on that every time and says, how can we turn this into a new creative expression of the Source? And again, you will have no clue what it is, what it looks like. Don't even try to predict it, because all you will do is limit it. The more you predict, the more you limit. Be in the mystery, be in the unfolding, be in the process. And man, that is where the magic happens.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was some fire.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ragdan, for that question. You got me all pumped up. I see Layla with her hand up.
Hi, Aaron. Thanks so much for sharing the knowledge with us. That's like amazing. I have a question around masculine and feminine energies. I have a confusion, actually. I don't know whether we have to have a core energy or we have to balance our energies within us.
A core energy in terms of like
masculine or feminine.
Yeah, like you gravitate more towards feminine or masculine.
Yes.
Yeah. I think that souls do gravitate more towards one polarity or the other, but that also creates a need for balancing the opposite polarity. So it's totally valid if you are more femininely oriented in all of your, you know, your spirituality, your practices, you know, you're way more into bhakti, you find jnana yoga totally uninteresting. Like, that's not bad at all. But everything needs to be balanced, that the polarities have to be balanced, because they will manifest as different distortions if they're not. And not even necessarily really bad things or whatever, but you'll find that your ability to continue polarizing is very limited without integrating the opposite polarity. And so once you see that, it just becomes in your best interest to start getting more into your masculine, getting more into the wisdom, the self-knowledge, the silence, the groundedness, and integrating that. And what you find is it actually empowers your feminine even more. So they really do serve one another in the same way that like a conscious romantic partnership, both partners will exalt and serve one another, right?
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Layla. Is there anyone else that has a question? Give it a second. I don't see anybody. Aaron, in the meantime, is there anything we can do that you can think of to support you? The Quantum Healing Collective loves you, man. So whatever we can do to help you out, we'll all definitely be tuning into Gaia. But is there any other ways that we can support you on your journey?
You know what, man? I wake up every day feeling like I have an army of support like behind me. It's just incredible. I could not possibly ask for more. I'm so constantly overflowing with love based on the feedback that I receive and the testimonies that come in, like many of you have shared tonight. You know, you can't imagine how much it blesses me. So I really always feel like I'm a cup that's just constantly overflowing. So I wish there was something I could say, but there really isn't. You guys are just so amazing, and I appreciate it more than I can say.
We'll keep up the good work, man. It is really cool. You have people coming to our group that are so lit up off your content. It just speaks so highly of you. And if anything ever comes up where we can help you, let us know. But what we do is we close our meeting with a prayer. Angela's going to close us out. Before we do that,
Mel's going to close you out.
Angela's going to, before Mel reads the prayer. Thank you.
Great. So I'm just going to link Aaron's stuff quickly in the chat, but if you are unaware of his website and his YouTube, we will do another post on our Facebook group too. So if you want to come get his info there, if you don't already have it, and let me put all of our information, please join our Facebook, find our past meetings, on YouTube, and our direct email if you need anything. Thank you so much for being here, and hope you all have a wonderful night.
Yeah, so Mel is going to read our closing prayer. And one thing Dawson Church introduced at our meeting is we just all reach our hands up and pretend that we're connecting with each other, holding hands in the virtual world. So Mel, whenever you're ready.
Awesome, thanks. So we dedicate this merit of this meeting to all of those awakening in this precious time. May our efforts to better ourselves help shift the planetary consciousness from fear to love. May this energy ripple out into the world and awaken those with closed hearts, illuminate closed minds, and inspire all to live within the presence of compassion and generosity.
Thank you all so much for being here. Thank you, Aaron. Love you all.
Thank you.